Session now, so we're going to go ahead and make a start. So again, for those of you that have just joined us in the last couple of minutes, welcome to today's webinar hosted by Combined Knowledge. My name's Rob Pratt, and for the past 10 years or so I've been helping customers make good use of their computer systems. Most of my time is spent in the classroom helping people to make use of SharePoint or Office 365, so I'm working as a SharePoint trainer, but also I spend a lot of my time writing SharePoint content as well, so creating videos and products to help support people in the use of SharePoint. Okay, so I'm going to be hosting the session today for the next hour. What I'm just going to do actually is I'm just going to switch a timer on next to me. It's going to beep at me in about 50 minutes. I'm quite enthusiastic about the kind of topic of having good SharePoint users. So about 50 minutes, this timer is going to beep at me and just remind me that I can't talk to you all day. Okay, so welcome to the session. The session is titled Create Incredible SharePoint Users. What I've done today is put together a little bit of a story for you that I'm going to share with you. I've broken the story down into a series of simple questions and answers. So let me go ahead and start off the story. So the first kind of question in the story is SharePoint intuitive? Here at Combined Knowledge, we've been using SharePoint since it was first created, and we've been helping people understand SharePoint since SharePoint 2003. The question always comes up to us when new versions of SharePoint are released. People always say, will we need to do any training? Is this version of SharePoint so intuitive and so simple to use that the users are just going to be able to adopt it straight away? Or will we need training? Will we need to spend money on adoption and a whole variety of things? So far, the answer with every version of SharePoint has always been no. Is SharePoint 100% intuitive? And the answer is no. Don't get me wrong, we do love SharePoint, and SharePoint really is our business. And with every version of SharePoint, it gets better every time. There's improvements to the user interface. Some of the old limits that used to exist don't exist anymore. So SharePoint does improve, but I think because of the complexity of SharePoint, there's so many options, there's so many different ways to use it, we're always going to need some help, or our end users in particular are always going to need some help with really getting to grips with SharePoint, making good use of it every day. So historically, we've used a variety of techniques at Combined Knowledge to help people make use of SharePoint and really understand it. So that's kind of where our story starts, with the idea that if you just buy SharePoint out of the box and you just give it to your end users, that's not necessarily a recipe for a really good ending. So we've seen a lot of people where they actually have SharePoint, they spend very little time adopting it, they spend very little effort marketing it to their business, and the end result quite often is end users that will literally turn around and say, I hate SharePoint. So I don't know if anyone's got to that stage yet in their organizations already, but often we hear people say they hate SharePoint. And even as recently as last week, I received an email from someone who was very negative about SharePoint. So the good news is that's not the way it should be. So SharePoint is an excellent product. Microsoft have spent more time and money developing SharePoint than probably most of their other products. So we really want to try and turn things around. So how do we help with that? Well, first of all, for over 11 years now, we've been helping customers to make good use of SharePoint. So knowing that it's not intuitive as just a starting point, we actually know many different ways that we can help to make it more intuitive, and we can help people understand SharePoint. On the picture there, that's actually my colleague Steve Smith. Some of you may have heard of Steve if you're in the SharePoint industry. Steve Smith is a director here at Combined Knowledge, and it's kind of his SharePoint vision is what we're going to be sharing with you today, the way he's helped us to understand SharePoint as a company, and then how we're helping other companies to do that as well. So for over 11 years, we've worked towards helping people understand and use SharePoint. Some of the people that we've worked with already are kind of household names. So these are just a few examples of the companies that we've been working with. And we've used a variety of different products and techniques that we're going to share with you today during the next hour. So these are just a few of the people that we work with. And I've tried to put a variety of examples up here of some existing customers that we work with. Some of these are multinational companies, so they work in a variety of languages all around the world. Some of these organizations are actually very localized, so they're based in one city or one building almost within a particular place. So again, we're working with customers at all the different scales, whether it's multinational or like a small local charity. So it all gives us good experience. The products that we use to help these people fall into three categories in terms of the main focus of the session today. So we have three products that we have created internally at Combined Knowledge, and this is what we use. So just to run through the headlines here before I show you some demonstrations of the products. The first product that we're going to talk about today is called Support Plus. Support Plus is a on-demand training product. So what we did is we looked at all of the different things that an end user within SharePoint would need to know when they're doing their day-to-day jobs. Things like, how would I keep track of a document? How would I delete a document? How would I add a meeting to a calendar in SharePoint? So we identified hundreds of these topics, and we put together step-by-step guides. So that's the first thing that we've done. Just to give you an idea, when we look at Support Plus, all of the content that you'll see in there has been created in-house by ourselves. So it's created by people that understand SharePoint, and it's all created to one standard. Sometimes if you look at other products that are out there, what you'll tend to find is people piece together information from lots of different sources to build their support solutions. What we've done, first of all, that's unique is we've done all of our content in-house. Okay, so that's the first thing we'll see. We'll demonstrate that for you in a moment. We're also going to show you Training Plus and computer-based training. So these are our three different products, and hopefully a combination of these could help you with your user adoption and your improve your skill levels for your end users. Some customers take all three of the products as a combination. Some customers just use one. So we'll go ahead in the next couple of demonstrations and we'll show you how each of these is different. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is a product called Support Plus. And the actual business scenario that I'm going to go through here is using Support Plus as a customer that are using Office 365. So don't worry, I know not all of you are using Office 365 at the moment. From the registration forms that some of you have filled in, some of you included some of the details on that. So the second demonstration I'm going to move on to in just a moment will be talking about SharePoint on-premises. So we have a slightly different solution for you guys. So bear with me, if you're not an Office 365 person, we'll be getting onto a second scenario in just a moment. So to begin with, those of you that are using Office 365, what we've got is our Support Plus app. The reason that we're using Support Plus as an app is it gives us a really simple way of delivering our product to you. The diagram here gives you a basic idea of kind of how simple it would be to use Support Plus. Just to give you an idea, and again, we'll see what this looks like in a moment. If you did say, hey, we really like Support Plus, the product looks great, we can see how it would help us as a business. The way it works is we host the Support Plus content here in our data center. So there's a series of videos, there's hundreds of step-by-step guides, there's a whole variety of content there. So if you were to buy the product, we continue to host it, and all that happens is you connect to it. So for example, if you had a budget and you had an amount of money to spend on user adoption or support or training within SharePoint, and previously you've looked at doing things, and perhaps one of the restrictions are IT is saying, no, we can't host it, we don't have the room. There's a lot of these things that we hear from people. Actually, this is kind of a non-technical solution. We host the content and you just connect to it. So as long as you've got an internet connection, then you can use this product. Okay, so it's probably enough talking about it. Let me go ahead and show you now. So for this first example, I'm going to be demoing from an Office 365 environment, and I'm going to pretend that I'm interested in Support Plus and I want to test it within my team site that I've got here. So I've created a new team site. I did it like half an hour ago. I've created this team site called USA Demo. You can see it's just a standard team site within SharePoint. At the moment, if I have a quick look around in here, such as in a library in a ribbon, there's no mention of Support Plus, so the product's not installed yet. So what I'm going to do is show you how easy it is to get a trial of Support Plus, and then I'll show you the actual product working through the trial as well. So the way it works is if you're the owner of your site, you can go into the settings icon and you can choose to add an app. Okay, so again, if you're not used to this terminology, apps within SharePoint are what Microsoft recommend as currently the best way of extending your SharePoint. So if you're trying to bring a product into SharePoint, Microsoft are telling us now this is the way to do it, and this is how we've developed our technology. Okay, so you go settings and you go add an app. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to go into the SharePoint store. And we've actually got integrated into the SharePoint store is our Support Plus product. Because there's so many products in the SharePoint store, you will need to search for it or go to a category where it lives. So probably the easiest way to get to it is just to search for it. So again, actually, if you're sat there and you've got a SharePoint site in Office 365, you could be trying this at the same time as me. So you could go Settings, Add an App. You could click on the SharePoint store and you could search for Support Plus. Okay, so when I do a search for that, what you should find is the first one that comes up at the top left is our Support Plus product. Okay, so you'll see Support Plus from Combined Knowledge, and Instant Support, Help Desk, and Training Solution. So if I was to click on this, all I need to do then is choose to add it. I've actually added this one previously in a different part of my SharePoint environment, so it actually already recognizes that this has been added somewhere else in my SharePoint environment. Okay, so it doesn't make much of a difference. I'm still just going to click Add, and you would click Add as well. You're going to need to choose to trust the Support Plus app. Okay, so we're going to choose to trust it. And all that's done, and that's just going to take a few seconds to happen, all that's done is behind the scenes, that's made a connection between my SharePoint site and the Support Plus product. So that's it. If that was your real SharePoint site, you're now connected to Support Plus. You don't need a special license key. You don't need to download any files. We don't need to email you any executables. So this is a really nice way of delivering these types of products. So what's happened now is it's taken me to a site contents page within my SharePoint site, and I can see here the Support Plus product. The Support Plus product will also have integrated into a few other places as well. What I'm going to do is just refresh this page. There we go. So Support Plus is here. Also, it's added itself to the quick launch menu on the left. So these are both shortcuts to get to the main Support Plus product. Okay, so an end user could come in now. They could be in this site and they could click on Support Plus if they need some help. So let's take a look at what Support Plus looks like. When we first go into Support Plus, because of the licensing that's set up for this example environment, it actually asks me what product do I want help with, and it offers me a whole range of products. That's just because the environment that I'm demoing from has all the licenses set up. If you were using this back at work and you just had the trial, so imagine if you've just followed me and you've done that back on one of your SharePoint sites, all you're probably going to have is the SharePoint 2013 button. All these other ones will be hidden automatically unless you're interested in them, in which case you can talk to us and we can light those up and you could look at those as well. So for example, one of our newest ones is on Power BI. I was just adding some content to that today, but the one we want to talk about for now is SharePoint 2013. So what we understand is that although in an ideal world we would have all the end users in the classroom and we'd be able to do training with every single one of them and would help them understand SharePoint that way, in reality typically what happens is we can't get everyone into the classroom, and what we need is alternative methods where we can support our end users and they can learn about SharePoint but without perhaps going into a classroom. So Support Plus is our first technique to do that. So we think if we can help people understand SharePoint, that's going to motivate them and hopefully they're going to set off on the right direction and start to learn more and more. So within here in Support Plus, we've got a variety of different topics. We can either search for a particular topic we're interested in, or we could drill down into these different headings. A couple of customers that I've been working with recently, they've been working quite a lot with publishing sites. So just out of interest, I think I'm going to go to publishing sites as a starting point. So this is rather than team sites, which is your lists and your libraries, this is publishing sites, more about pages, page content. If I have a look in here, let's go page content. So one of the things that I was talking with a customer about last week was the idea of working with images and pictures within SharePoint 2013. Traditionally, that's always been something that's quite difficult, getting the right size pictures, the right quality pictures. So we know that SharePoint 2013 has some great features to help with that. So as part of our Support Plus product, we've documented those features, for example, renditions. The way we document all the features that are in Support Plus, so all these hundreds of topics, we break them down into kind of easy to consume chunks that the end users can look at whenever it's convenient to them. So what they can do is they can come in and they could look at steps, and hopefully quite often they'll look at the steps and that'll be enough to tell them what to do. So if you imagine the end user a couple of minutes ago was in a SharePoint site, they stepped across to Support Plus, they used the categories or the search to get to a topic that interested them, and then they followed the steps that are on the screen. Hopefully a few minutes later they're back having learned something and applied it on their own SharePoint site, and they're working again. So this is what we realise a lot of end users want now. Even if they have the budget to go on a training course, they often choose not to, and they just say, oh, I want a way of learning it at my desk. So it's these bite-sized, manageable bits of information that an end user can go and, whenever it's convenient for them, go and pick up and use. And they might not even print it out, they might not remember it because it's there, and if they need it again, you know what, they'll search for it, a minute later they get back to it. So they're becoming self-sufficient. So what's not happened is they've not gone into SharePoint and given up because they couldn't find the button they wanted. So hopefully as soon as they get tuned into Support Plus, it gives them access to a lot more good structured information. Also what the end users not necessarily had to do is they've not had to pick up the phone and call the support team. So quite often if you've got a support team or if you're managing a support team for SharePoint, you're getting a lot of calls on things that are really simple, and it's just literally step-by-step processes. So we often see people in support teams would use Support Plus as a positive way of sharing information quickly. So to begin with, it might work that an end user would come to you, they would phone the support team and say, how do I do something? What the support team could do is go into any page within here, they could copy the address of it, and they could email that straight to the individual and say, here's the steps for that thing you're trying to do. And remember, there's hundreds of these step-by-step guides built into here. Okay. One of the things that might be tricky if someone tries to follow the steps as an end user is if they're trying to follow the steps and they keep minimizing the page to go and try them, so the steps are not there and they keep minimizing. So what we've got in here is something called Help on Top. Help on Top literally means if I click on that, it's going to open a new window, just bring that window onto this screen, and that window will stay on the screen whilst the end user is still working. So wherever the end user goes, this Help on Top page will follow them. Okay, so it just literally has a process to come to the front of the screen. The Help on Top component here, if you did want to use that, that component has to be installed on the individual user's computers. So if you've got 100 users, you'd need to get this component and install it on 100 computers. Okay? The good news is if you think, well, we don't really need Help on Top, then you don't have to have that, you just wouldn't have that functionality. And in that case, if you don't have Help on Top, everything else we host. So literally you'd be able to add the app, people could use the Support Plus as a shortcut, and everything else you see in this demo, we're hosting. Okay. Another benefit, by the way, of us hosting this content is that as Microsoft continue to change SharePoint, so for example, in Office 365, Microsoft have said they will make significant changes to SharePoint every 90 days. So every 90 days, we're seeing major changes to SharePoint. Because we're hosting all this content, as it changes, we keep up to date with the changes and we change the information that we're hosting. So the next time an end user comes and looks at a topic, they're always seeing up-to-date information. So the content that we're sharing is always being updated. We have access to the latest information available from Microsoft on what those updates are. So we try and stay ahead as far as possible with those updates. Even, for example, recently, Microsoft had removed a few parts of SharePoint and said we're not going to support them anymore, they're no longer going to be available. So again, we've gone into our product and we've removed those topics. So bear that in mind. If you're looking at any similar products, definitely make sure you ask them, how are they going to keep up to date with Microsoft continual changes? Even Microsoft struggled to keep up to date with their help documents. So it's something that we've looked at, and we have a team of people that are continually updating. Okay, so that's good. Hopefully that gives you a starting point. The next thing then is, well, what if the end user says, I've gone in, I've looked at the steps, but I still don't know what to do? Okay, so that could happen. What we've done for those guys is for every one of these step-by-step guides, again, which there's hundreds of, we've given them a details page. So the details page for each of the step-by-steps breaks things down, gives you a bit more of the story, including relevant links to other topics. One of the things you'll tend to find with SharePoint is it's very difficult to talk about one topic at a time. Pretty much everything in SharePoint is related to something else in SharePoint. So again, because of our experience of SharePoint, we understand that. So as you're looking through things, we'll say, hey, if you're reading this, here's a link to this other thing. And actually all these links will link to other topics that we've written and are part of Support Plus. None of these links ever go out to like a YouTube or like a general channel that we're not in control of. So whenever there's information and people are following around in here, it's always as up to date as possible, and it's being created by us as SharePoint experts. Okay, so we know hopefully it's good information. Within here, we spend a lot of time making everything look kind of nice. We label everything up nice and clearly. And this same standard we apply to all the steps. So for example, there's something called paste clean, which is where you can copy stuff and from a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet and paste it in a nice clean format straight onto a page. So for example, here we have the steps, the details, so the same kind of breakdown as we had. And as I go through and look at all these different topics, they've all got this same structure. Some people look at the details, some end users, and they still say, no, I still don't know what to do, I'm still not sure. So for those guys, for every one of the steps, we put a video in. So yes, it did take us a while to build all these, but we're pretty good at it now. We've built hundreds of them. So if I have a look here, these videos are non-audio, so they're designed so you could be sat in a busy office and just watch them and they still make sense. So within here, we can see whatever were in the steps and in the details are also in the video. And again, all these video content, we're hosting all of this in our data center. So they're all consistent, they're all the same size. With these videos, again, we've edited them all and produced them all in such a way to make them as clear as possible. So you might see little things that we've done, but we've done them consistently. So like an oversized mouse, so when it moves around the screen, people can see it. We're zooming into the part of the screen that's appropriate. So everything we're doing here, because we've been doing this for 3 versions of SharePoint now, we've developed them and made them clearer and better all the time. So those are the 3 variations. What I'm going to do for a moment is just to finish up this first demonstration. I just want to show you another way that people can use Support Plus. So we're still in the same scenario. I'm still in Office 365. What I want to do is just show you that an end user could be in a specific part of SharePoint. So for example, they could be in a document library. And when they are in a library, because of our app, it actually adds the Support Plus Help button into the ribbon. And it will have done that on pages and in calendars and all sorts of different places within SharePoint. So wherever it's appropriate, wherever it's possible from a technical point of view, we've added the Support Plus icon in. And remember, the way we installed it was just settings, add an app. Just by going through and doing that, it's becoming available in the ribbon and on the menus on the left. If I just try Support Plus here from within a document library, let's give that a try. What it does is it understands where I am. So it sees that I'm in SharePoint and it knows that it's SharePoint in Office 365, which is slightly different to SharePoint on premises. So it sees all that. And what it also does is it detects that I'm in a library as well. So within Support Plus, rather than taking me to the general homepage, it's jumped me straight to the library content. We've put here what we know are some of the most popular topics. But again, it's easy for people to kind of expand this. And if I just choose some of these at random, you can see the same quality in here. Steps, details, video. I'll come to the CBTs in a moment, but you can see as we're looking down through all these different areas, there is a massive amount of content. So I happen to have just picked on publishing and lists and libraries, but you can see there is a whole variety. I can't say that we've documented the whole of SharePoint, but what we did is when we started this project for 2013, we looked at kind of the most common things that an end user did, and that's what we built first into the product, so that took quite a while. Then by popular demand, we added security. So we're sort of listening to what people are telling us they're interested in, and based on that, the product will continue to grow and continue to be updated. And again, as we do add more content, because of the methodology that we're using to deliver it, you will automatically just get that content. Okay, so as we update it and improve it, you'll continue to get those updates. So just to confirm what we like about that in terms of the delivery method, the updates we do on a regular basis. Also, what you've just seen is exactly the process you would follow to get a free trial. So you would go into your Office 365 settings, add an app, and search for Support Plus, and by doing that you could get the free trial. When you do go to the free trial, it will look very similar. So let me just go back. It will look very similar, but actually when you come into here and you click on some of the headings, it will tell you here, this is a trial, this content is not included, and it will give you links to some of the content that is included. So I think in the trial, it has about 12 different topics. So there's like 12 of these kind of different, what we call learning objects. So out of the hundreds, you get about 12, and that will give you a feel for the product. For now, we've just gone through a relatively quick demo just to give you an idea of what it's all about. If anyone does want to talk kind of offline after the session, then we can support you in the trial. If you're having trouble adding the trial or not sure how to do that, then we can organise either a visit or a different online meeting that's private to your company, and we can help you kind of go ahead and get a bit further with the trial. So that's one method that we can use to help people understand SharePoint. So we have a few others as well, and they're a little bit different. So before we move on completely, just to mention, if anyone uses Content Panda, so Content Panda is a different way of delivering kind of SharePoint help and SharePoint adoption. So what we've talked about so far is we have our method, our hosting method that we can use to deliver Support Plus. Yeah, you can also use Content Panda. So this is only really relevant to anyone that has Content Panda already. So if you are an existing user of Content Panda, basically this slide here is just to point out that as a user of Content Panda, you could also purchase Support Plus through Content Panda. So it's just two methods that you could use to deliver the same content. If you're new to the product and you don't have Content Panda, it's probably easier if you just talk to us and we can share the content with you directly. But if you are an existing user of Content Panda, that is another way that you can also access the same information. The prices are the same, to be honest, so either way it doesn't make that much difference, but for anyone that's an existing Content Panda user, just to mention, you can get Support Plus content that way as well. Couple of other simple questions then. Is Support Plus expensive? So hopefully you're going to be really surprised by the answer to this. So I've done this for the American audience because of the time zone that we're in today. So I've done this for the American audience, but the prices are equivalent for other parts of the world as well. So you can just use more or less your kind of local conversion rate. So just to confirm, the Support Plus, which is what we've seen so far, typically the price would never be more than $1.56 per person per month. So that's giving you the up-to-date information, the access to the videos, the step-by-steps and the details. That would be based on like one person using the product. So if you're a company with one person in, then that would be your price per month. As you go up and you've got 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, the price just comes down and down with every kind of major jump. So for example, for a really large company, we're getting way under $1 per person per month. So kind of from our point of view, what we think is we have the best price for anyone that's doing this type of product on the market. We have the most content in terms of the volume, and we have the best quality in terms of the way it looks, the way things are explained. So from our point of view, hopefully if you're kind of comparing these products, these are a few of the things that you should be looking at. Not just the cost, but the quantity and the quality, and the fact that we do it all in-house as well. Okay. So hopefully that's a good story for you guys. And again, if you want to talk about specific prices, we'd need to do that after the session. And I'm going to give you some contact details as we get towards the end of the session as well. I'm just having a quick look at the questions window here and the chat window. I can't see any questions or chat at the minute, so I'm going to keep going. If I don't see any questions or chat, I'm just going to assume that you're all happy and smiling. Okay, yeah, that's good. So second scenario, I just want to talk through briefly. So a slightly different scenario. So again, if you've got SharePoint 2013, but this time you're on premises rather than in Office 365, this diagram kind of shows you how you could still use Support Plus, and Support Plus would be the same content, so the step-by-steps, the details, the videos. So we would still host the content potentially, if that's the way you want to do it. Your IT department hosts your SharePoint information, and we can use an app again, so the same sort of idea, but very slightly different process. We could use the app again so that we're able to host the training content, we're able to keep it up to date. Again, you can pay per month per user, so you don't have to have a big upfront fee. So this is just a different model that we can use to deliver the content. A couple of cool things that go with this. What we know is that a lot of customers at the moment have both scenarios going on at once. So if you have a hybrid environment where you have both SharePoint in Office 365, but you also continue to have SharePoint on premises, yep, so you've got both environments going on, which is quite normal and probably will continue to be for a long time. What we're able to do is we're able to do a really good thing with the licensing where we say, okay, we're just going to make you pay once per user. We actually don't mind that you've got SharePoint on premises and SharePoint online. We understand that's normal. We're not going to make you pay twice to use it. So the reason I point that out is in this model here, we've kind of just looked at the two different scenarios. So the prices that we had back here, this kind of, let's say worst case scenario, $1.56 per person, that would be exactly the same if you tell us you have SharePoint on premises and SharePoint online. So people could use Support Plus in both of your hybrid situations, and it would still be the same price. So worst case scenario, even in a hybrid, this is the price. Another reason I mention that is that the training content and the Support Plus content we have is quite different now, depending on whether you are on premises or in Office 365. So SharePoint 2013 is a few years old now, whereas SharePoint in Office 365 continues to update almost every day. So as time's gone on since 2013, so like almost 3 years ago, the two products are very different. So our Support Plus content is different for SharePoint on premises, and it's different for SharePoint online. So that's something else to watch out for again. So not only are we going to give you them both at the same price, but also we understand they're different and we update them in that way. We're going to keep them different. So just to be clear, back in simple terms, what does that mean? It means that in the morning, a user could log into SharePoint in Office 365. They need some help in doing something. They go into Support Plus, they get some help as to how to do it in Office 365. Great. They then, half an hour later, are in a different team site, which is hosted in SharePoint on premises. The end user has no idea that they've moved to a different part of your hybrid model. The end user sees what they think is the same. However, if they click the help button in there, they're going to get the help for the on-premises content, which will be appropriate to that environment. Okay, so the end user is blissfully unaware of all this kind of complexity going on behind the scenes. Okay, so we can deliver Support Plus for on-premises as well. So that's more good news. So the third and final scenario here, I've still got a couple of little demos to do. Third and final scenario. So we have a lot of customers that tell us that they like the content, they like the steps and the videos, and there's a few other things I'll show you that hopefully are going to win you over even more than that. There's some kind of really special stuff that I'm going to show you in a moment. But what they say is they want to be able to customize it. They want to be able to change the branding on it. They want to be able to add their own information. So getting good, kind of enthusiastic and well-informed users is part of it, but your business might want the users to understand how to use SharePoint within your business, not just how to use SharePoint generically. So you want to put in your own policies and procedures and your own language or wording. So the way we facilitate that is that you can take the content from us, so you can purchase the content, and instead of us hosting the content in our data center, which is where we've been for the first two scenarios, instead you're able to host the same content within your internal network. So effectively your IT department would put the content onto a server or a group of servers within your network. The main benefit of that is that because you're hosting it, you can customize it. Okay? So if you want to delete stuff, rename stuff, change pictures, of all that Support Plus content that we were looking at, you're able to do that. And either we could teach you how to use the editing tool that we have. So we use an editing tool, a program that you install on your computer, and we could teach you how to do that, and if you have an internal training team, for example, or an internal support team, they might make those updates. Or for some companies, they say, well, 90% of the content is there already. They say, hey, combined knowledge, can you just make this other 10% for us, and we'll just buy that. We'll just pay you the 5 days development for the extra content. So the end result is that you've got customized training materials that you're then hosting. The only downside that means is that if we make updates to our generic content, they don't automatically pass over to what your end users are seeing. So if something changes, like a new service pack comes out, any changes that we make wouldn't automatically add to your content. We do have a process where we could take our changes and we could send them to you, but it would then be up to you to then to deploy them in your environment. Okay. So the third scenario just gives you a bit more flexibility. So those are the 3 different scenarios. So what I want to do is just show you a couple of other things. So a couple of other things then that go with this. So let me switch back to my demo. We are right towards the end of the session now. I've just got a few things just to show you, just to finish this off. So there's 2 kind of really special things that I've saved till the end of the session. These are the things that hopefully, if you're not decided yet, these are hopefully things that you're going to see and go, wow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm back in my SharePoint site. I'm going to pretend again to be an end user, okay, just a normal end user. I'm going to need some help, so I'm going to head over to Support Plus. And again, I'm going to go into SharePoint for now. I will come back and look at a couple of these other ones in a moment, but let's stick with SharePoint for now because that's really the focus for the session. What I'm going to do then, let's see. Yeah, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to head back into publishing sites, and I'm going to go back to a topic that we started off with half an hour ago, which was this renditions. This was to do with resizing pictures. One of the things that I didn't show you when I was looking at the steps, the details in the videos, is there was an extra thing called CBTs. This is a computer-based training. The reason I've kind of kept these separate, just as a discussion, is you can buy these separately. Okay? So you can buy just the CBTs as a standalone solution. So with the CBTs, one of the differences is they do have audio, but also they have a bit more detail, and they all have a quiz at the end. So when people have watched them, they're able to go in and then take the quiz to test their knowledge. So let's take a quick look at CBT. I know that audio is going to be a little bit quiet on this, so I'll try and turn it up a little bit.
Welcome. In this lesson, we'll be discussing publishing page content. Although adding content to a publishing page is very similar to a wiki page, there are certain features that are available in publishing pages that are not featured on any other type of page. Covered in this lesson are page clean, reusable content, selecting renditions, and next we're going to discuss selecting renditions. Renditions is a method of uploading a large photo and being presented with smaller, organized photos. These are normally a smaller file size, which allow your page to load a little faster. This option must be switched on-premise in a SharePoint environment. However, Office 365 allows this option by default. First of all, let's click on the Insert tab in my page, which is currently in edit mode. I'm going to now click on Picture and select from my computer. I then click Browse, and in Windows Explorer, I'm going to select a picture. This is a picture I took in Skopje. I'm now going to select that picture and click on Open, and from the Upload Image dialog box, I click on OK.
So we can see with these Support Plus CBTs that actually it's getting a little bit closer to a classroom environment. So the idea that you can hear an instructor, we can see the step-by-step demonstrations, and also in here that we mentioned these learning checks. So this is
studying the CBT lesson.
So this is like an exam at the end where people can go through and they can test their knowledge. With these little quizzes here, what we try to do is make them a bit more interesting rather than just a tick box. So with some of these, you have to drag them, With some of these, it will be like pieces in a puzzle where you have to actually go ahead and some of these will be like pieces in a puzzle where you have to go ahead and actually connect them together. Some of the questions will be place these things in the correct order. So we try and use a whole variety of these things. So the CBTs are part of Support Plus, so they are part of Support Plus, but also you can buy them separately. So for example, if you had an LMS system, so if as a business you already have an LMS system and you've been thinking, oh, we need to get around to building some SharePoint content for our LMS system, potentially rather than buying Support Plus, which is kind of like the equivalent of an LMS system, it's slightly different, but it's very, very similar with its navigation and search, you could buy just the CBTs and upload excuse me, and upload them into your LMS. Okay, so that was just a brief look at CBTs, and then the final thing that I want to show you in terms of the different products is my favorite one, which is Training Plus. So we talked to customers back in SharePoint 2007 and SharePoint 2010, and we had our Support Plus product back then, and the customers said, yeah, we really like it, but we want something more. You know, what's the next thing that you're going to do? So what we did is we put together Training Plus, and this is getting people even closer to a classroom experience. So we looked at our most popular SharePoint content that we deliver in classrooms and online with live instructors, and we took those same instructors, including myself, and we actually captured modules from real training courses. Typically they're about an hour long, so each topic is about 1 hour, and we've actually produced it into a really high quality video. So let me go ahead and just show you this. In this example, I'm just going to access it from the Support Plus homepage, but actually again, this is something that for you guys, potentially you would host this within your local network to reduce network traffic. So let me show you. So I'm going to demo this over the internet for now, but typically when customers buy this, they host it within their own internal network. So if I go into here, I've got two examples that I could choose from really. I've got Training Plus for SharePoint. So these are these almost like being in a classroom, like really high quality videos for SharePoint. I've also, earlier in the year, I put together Training Plus for Nintex Workflow, 2013. So if anyone has Nintex Workflow, we have Training Plus modules for that as well. So I think I'm going to demo from the SharePoint content, because again, the session today officially is really around SharePoint. Again, you'll see sort of the same topics that we had in Support Plus and CBTs. We see them over here in Training Plus. So if I was to go in and take a look at one of these.
Welcome to Working with Publishing Features. My name's Rob, and during this lesson we're going to show you how to create pages within a publishing site. We will start by showing you how to create an empty page, and then slowly but surely we're going to build up the content of the page. We're going to show you how to deal with some of the more difficult types of content, including photographs and videos. We'll also be showing you how to deal with taking information from other popular Microsoft programs such as Word and Excel, bringing that information that might well exist already and including that content within your page. The good news is this version of SharePoint is better than any previous versions at creating pages and dealing with page content.
I'm just going to skip to one of the other topics in here just to show you. The first bit there is an intro, so you can see the kind of quality that goes with that. I just want to skip to a bit here that actually has a demonstration in so that you can see what it looks like when we do a demo. So let's try and choose one. There we go.
Into the page and pressing enter a couple of times or return, as you might know, on your keyboard, just to chase that the rest of the content down and make a bit of space. We're then heading into insert, picture, and you can see there's a few different locations that we can get our pictures from. So in this case, I'm going to say picture from SharePoint, because I'm actually looking for a few pictures that I've uploaded previously. So these pictures are uploaded to an image library within the site, and these are actual pictures that were taken with a digital camera. when that picture comes in, it's a little bit too big. So we head up to the...
So you can see again here, the same as all the content that we work with, we've created all this internally. You can see the production value is really high, so we made sure the audio's good quality. These are all filmed in HD quality, and also you can see that the video in the background here, for example, again, we've got a nice big oversized mouse pointer. We're zooming in on the part of the screen that we're talking about. So these are not just the kind of videos where people have quickly made them and said, right, that'll do, let's just get lots done. So again, we have a great volume of content, but with every step of the way, we're watching the quality and making sure that it's the highest that's possibly available. Okay, so that was just a quick sample of that, and we do have the same thing for Nintex as well. So very briefly, just in case there's any Nintex workflow people out there today, just to give you an idea, we took our most popular 3-day Nintex workflow class, and we broke that class down into a series of modules, and again, each of those runs for about an hour or so. I think a couple of maybe slightly longer than an hour.
So how this could be.
So again, the Nintex workflow content really lent itself to this same format as well. So again, same sort of quality and detail goes with that. Okay, so there's a couple of questions did come in. I think we've already answered some of the questions just as we've had that last discussion. One question, is Training Plus available for SharePoint 2010? Sadly, it's not at the moment. The first version of SharePoint that we created Training Plus for is 2013, I'm afraid. So at the moment, no, we don't have Training Plus for 2010, and I suspect we probably won't go back and make it unless we get a whole load of requests. So yeah, sadly not. We have Support Plus for SharePoint 2007, 2010 and 2013, but Training Plus at the moment is only available for SharePoint 2013 and Nintex Workflow 2013. Yep, okay. So with that, we've gone through and looked at the main components that I wanted to demonstrate to you. One of the other questions that might normally come up again then is Training Plus expensive? You can see it kind of looks really premium, and you can see we obviously spent a lot of time creating that. But again, we didn't want to build an amazing product and price it so that no one could afford the thing. So we're trying to be realistic with all the prices. So just to give you an idea, the usual price for Training Plus, so for example, Training Plus for SharePoint, just taking that on its own, so in dollars that would be nearly $8,000. At the moment, we have a special offer on, so it's closer to $4,500. So again, if you've got a whole number of users, you could take those videos, you could host them locally within your environment, and those users could watch them as many times as they need to. So for some companies, they do this to support their internal training team. So the training team would continue to go out and do, master classes and things like that. But maybe for new starters and inductions, you'd say, hey guys, if you're new to SharePoint, not used it before, or never had any good formal training, here's some videos you could watch. This will be part of your induction, and then if you do have your own internal training team, you may then go into some more specialized stuff with the team after the generic videos have been covered. The other thing we've done for a few customers recently, since we've rolled out Training Plus and it's becoming a bit more popular, what we've done is we've actually worked with customers to learn about their organizations and build for them customized versions of Training Plus. So we had the scenario I just mentioned about new starters. We've got a council, so like a government area in the UK that we work with near London, and they have new starters all the time. Like every 2 weeks they've got 10 new starters. There's so many people joining the organization. So them SharePoint training actually was on their to-do list, but they never were able to fulfill the requirement. They were constantly putting on these sessions. So we sat down and created three short videos for them, using their language, their branding, their demonstration environments, and we actually baked into that all these videos. So now when they have a new starter, they can say, hey, you just need to watch these videos. It's got everything in. We know the quality's really good. We know that the enthusiasm's there. So that just helped their training team be freed up to be doing other things that they needed to get on top of. So we really work with a lot of existing support teams and training teams. Equally, if you're not lucky enough to have a training team, again, we can still come in and help you with that as well. So the price there, the 4,500, is either for SharePoint or for Nintex. So at that 4,500, you get one or the other. You wouldn't get both. Okay. So that's our Training Plus. So just as we come towards the end of the session now, I know this timer is going to beep at me in like 10 seconds to say that I need to not get too carried away and keep you here all day. So just before we get towards the end of the session, a couple of quick things to mention. With this particular session today, the focus was really around these products that we've got, the Support Plus, the CBTs and the Training Plus. But we should really mention, whilst we've got you here, that actually we still work in all the traditional ways as well. So the majority of the work we do, so probably more than half the work we do, is still in a classroom or online doing live sessions. So we know for some users, live sessions is still the way to go, definitely for maybe developers, for example. They like to be in a classroom and be able to stay late and work with the instructor. Whereas end users quite often just want to quickly know something and move on. Most of the work we do is customized in some way, so whether that's customized classroom deliveries or customized Support Plus. So don't worry if what you've seen doesn't look quite right. It may well be that we could customize things for you specifically. Most of our customers, when we're helping them with their sort of SharePoint end users, for example, they tend to use more than one product. So if you want to do a combination for a rollout of SharePoint or an upgrade of SharePoint, and you're looking for someone to help you with classroom training and webinars and a support product, then as we've kind of demonstrated today, at Combined Knowledge, we do the whole range of things. Okay, and we bring that same quality and standards to that whole range that we do. We also do global delivery, so I'm talking to you today from Leicestershire, England, so I'm about 100 miles north of London today, but we do courses all the time for different parts of the world. So a session I'm working on tomorrow, I'll be hosting a session for 6 hours online tomorrow for a whole load of customers that are out in different parts of America. And we also have trainers that will work in different parts of the world as well. So we've got trainers, for example, over in America and Australia and France and a whole variety of other places as well. So if you need to do a global delivery and you're worried about how can we make it good and consistent, and that's quite normal for us, we'll often deliver for global customers, and we'll take the same quality and content and we'll do it all over the world, whether that's through online sessions or actually quite often we'll just jump on a plane and we'll come over and visit you as well. Okay, so that's all normal for us, none of that sort of scares us. So if you need someone to help you with any of that, we can do that as well. So the very last slide for the session, unless there's any other questions, just in terms of what to do next. So all the basic product information is available on our website, so combined-knowledge.com, and either just click on products or put /products to get to our products page. So there you'll see Training Plus, CBTs and Support Plus, so you see all those listed. Some of them there's demos right there on the site that you can just click on and try. Remember, if you are, particularly if you are an Office 365 customer, you can just go to one of your team sites, go settings, add an app, SharePoint store and search for Support Plus. Search for Support Plus, you can add in the trial. You know, it takes 1 minute to add the thing in. Click on it in your navigation on the left, give it a go, see what you think. So hopefully some of you are, this will be the solution that some of you are hoping for. It's all part of the puzzle of having good end users. I'm not normally office based, so the contact details I put on the slide today are for our sales and marketing director, which is Zoe Watson. So she is office based normally, and she's the best person to get in touch with. So you can either get her on an email or you could call her. Either way, she'll be able to get back to you. And if you do need to arrange a demonstration for any of your colleagues to see the products, or if you want to talk about SharePoint training or Office 365 training and adoption, or even if you're just looking to find some other good contacts within the SharePoint community, let us know. Because we host big SharePoint conferences every year, and because we've been in the SharePoint community for a long time, we know a lot of the third-party vendors, and we work very closely with them. So even if you sort of think, oh, combined knowledge can do half of what we want, still get in touch with us, and hopefully we'll be able to point you in the right direction for some other help and support as well. Okay. So I'll just say thanks again for joining me in the session today. I'm just going to stay in the session just in case there's any more questions. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.